admittedly, you can certainly go nymphing with your regular fly fishing outfit, whatever you've got. A couple of considerations. We talked about fishing giant stonefly nymphs. The heavier the nymph, the heavier the line has to be to cast it, the heavier the rod has to be. So if I'm fishing really large stonefly nymphs, I'm going to be fishing a heavy line, maybe a 6-weight line, and therefore I'll be fishing a 6-weight rod. A 5-weight's a good all-round rod, and if you're doing a lot of small nymphing with smaller flies and getting smaller fish, a 4-weight rod's good. But generally speaking, a 4 and 5-weights are ideal rod unless you're fishing really a lot of those big, heavy nymphs, in which case you do need a heavier line. And talking of lines, again, your general fly lines are going to work fine for you on that. Your normal trout lines, your all-round general purpose lines are going to be ideal. But like anything else, when you specialize in this and you really want to get the best kind of tackle for throwing indicators and nymph patterns, as we're about to talk about, you really need to get the right type of line that's designed specifically to do that. And this line's called an indicator line, and it's called an indicator line. Well, we're going to take a look at what an indicator is in a moment, but an indicator is a big thing, a float basically put on your leader, and that unbalances your outfit. And so lines that are designed to cast indicators are a little bit more front-loaded, and they're designed literally to throw these indicators a lot easier than your regular trout line. So if you do a lot of nymphing, it probably will pay you off to get lines that are specifically designed for that. Now, I mentioned that word indicator. What is an indicator? Well, simply, it's a float. Look at that thing. I've rigged one up here. You can see this orange ball. That's a nice little float there. That is an indicator. And there's lots and lots of different types of indicator. Every angler has and migrates to their favorite type of indicator. And we're not going to really delve into the advantages of every single indicator. I'm just going to show you a couple of indicators. And why you fish an indicator? Well, first thing is, if here's the fly, and if I'm hanging my fly 2 feet below that indicator is controlling the depth. So my nymph will stay perfectly at the 2-foot depth. Excellent. If you know your water's 2 feet and you want to be near the bottom, this is a great setup. If your water's 4 feet, simply slide the indicator up another 2 feet, and then you've got your nymph a little bit deeper. So reason 1 for an indicator is because it controls the depth. And number 2, hence the name indicator, it actually indicates when a fish grabs it. If this is floating down the water surface and a fish takes hold of this fly in its mouth, what's going to happen is that indicator will bob under, or it'll pull to the side. So you watch your indicator on the water, it controls the depth, and it tells you when a fish eats the fly. That's great. Now, an indicator doesn't necessarily have to be just an indicator like that, a bright orange version of whatever it is. An indicator could equally be a dry fly. So this nymph rig here is called a hopper dropper. And what I've done here is I've tied on a dry fly onto my end of my regular leader. And on that leader, I've hung below the dry fly my little nymph. And that little nymph sinks down. And this way, I've got an advantage because now a fish might take this dry fly because flies are hatching and fish will eat these bugs. And so I'm covered with that. But it also acts as an indicator. It also acts as a depth control. So really good, very useful, very effective technique of nymphing is to fish the hopper dropper. But one thing to keep in mind is this is a second fly. So in rivers where you're only allowed to fish one fly, you can't really fish this system. You've got to just go to the indicator, to the single fly. As I said, there's lots of different indicators. There's lots of colors. You want to have a selection of colors. You want to have white ones like this for fishing in dark backgrounds. You want to have bright color ones like you've seen here on my hand earlier for those brighter days when you can't really see them. So get yourself a selection of indicator colors. Get your selection of indicator sizes too. You can see I've got different sizes here, right? In calm water, I want to fish the smaller ones. That's going to be easy to see. And in bubblier, ripplier water, I'm going to fish a slightly larger indicator. So as you get into your nymph fishing, you'll definitely want to have a selection of color and different size indicators. So that's an understanding of the basic gear you need to go fly fishing for nymphs. Now, let's take a little look at how to rig it and some of the rigs that I use as a nymph angler when I'm out on the water.